This leads to our next story, which is this which is Governor Pritzker. We were just talking about this, you and I, the other day, about how, and producer Nick, formerly of This Week in Startups, now the producer of All In.
The All In podcast.
People are doing therapy with ChatGPT and other LLMs, and they're building friendships, and young kids are doing it. And it's so placating and pleasing that now people are getting worried, because there was this therapist who wrote a story in the New York Times effusively praising, like, this is as good as me, or this did things that I didn't think of doing as a therapist, which leads you to believe one of two things. Either that person got one-shotted, is a new term people are using, or, there it is, I'm a therapist, ChatGPT is eerily effective.
Eerily effective. Or therapy is like a playbook that could be replicated to some extent.
Maybe, but I mean, if you think about what it does, it paces you. You ask open-ended questions, and a lot of therapy, based on my psychology degree from 30 years ago, was just the idea of sharing with another human being as your witness was cathartic and helped you get through things. So to that extent, if you believe this is sentient in some way or a genius in some way, which is how it was presented today, Sam Altman said this is like a graduate student and will soon be the smartest human being on the planet.
Yeah, it's like talking to a PhD, yeah.
So if it's being pitched as a PhD, then consumers, if Sam says this is a PhD, well, you know who else has a PhD? Clinical psychologists.
Right.
Therapists.
Yeah.
So Governor Pritzker signed legislation on Monday prohibiting AI therapy in Illinois. Now, I don't know if people were actually using it, but I think he's kind of getting ahead of the curve, which I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I am troubled by the idea of AI therapy, mostly because, it's not. They didn't actually design an AI and like teach it to be a therapist. They just fed it a lot of text, and now it's a good predictive engine. It knows how to respond to you. But it's not a therapist. It's not licensed. It doesn't know that what it's saying is going to help cure you. It's just trying to come up with the best possible response it can to what you said. And you're right that I've been in therapy, and 80% of the time, that is all a therapist is doing. They're just like hearing what you said, throwing it back at you in a slightly different way, or what if you thought about it like this, or maybe this relaxation technique might work. And AI, an LLM could do all of that. But it's those 10% edge cases where there's something that you could say that would be the wrong thing, or that would be a dangerous thing that you might not even realize.
It's just like self-driving. Like there's going to be a time when a garbage bag goes flying across the front of your car, and it thinks it's a truck and slams on the brake, and then somebody hits you from behind, and it's like, okay, well, that's like a random thing. A giant tarp flew across the highway. I've never seen that in my life of 50 years on the road, but I'm sure at some point a tarp will fly across the road and a Waymo will think that's a truck, slam on the brakes.
Yeah.
And
like I said, most of the time, if you're simulating like a person going to their therapist to be like, I feel anxious, and then the therapist is going to be like, well, here's a breathing exercise. Like there's not a ton that couldn't go too wrong, and the person ends up seriously injured. Like maybe they learned a breathing exercise or two. That's fine. But there are going to be those times where somebody's like, I'm having suicidal thoughts. And like you don't want the AI then. You want
to encourage you.
Well, I don't think an AI necessarily knows. I don't know what to say in that situation. Why would an AI?
I mean, there was literally a case where this character AI software, I wouldn't say it told the person. When I saw the chat transcript, I don't have it committed to memory.
It was a 15-year-old, and they were having this discussion with character
They were
AI.
doing a role play,
right?
I think would be a best way to say it. So if you say, hey, do a role play where we're both mobsters and we have to go solve this problem, we got to go whack somebody. It's like The Sopranos, or it's like Goodfellas. Like, yeah, it might tell you to kill somebody because it thinks it's writing a script. And so the line is getting blurred here. I heard these same arguments about Dungeons and Dragons, about certain television shows where these new things, so there is a personal responsibility here. The one thing I will point out here is, remember we had this concept at the AI Summit a couple of weeks ago about federal versus local regulation of AI.
Sure, yeah.
So I wonder if Pritzker is specifically doing local AI regulation, and we'll see Texas or whatever, New York follows suit, which is, hey, we know what's best for the citizens of our state. We don't need the federal government telling us, which is run by one party right now, telling our local constituents who didn't vote for the president, if it was specifically California, or I don't know if Chicago went for Trump or Biden.
I believe Illinois went for Biden.
That's a good question, because I think they're like kind of purple, right? So
all the
anyway,
swing states went for Trump, right? So
yeah, they did. It was crazy. So here you have it, folks.
they Kamala won Illinois 54% to Trump's 43%.
Okay, so yeah, that was a big win. So should the Trump administration tell the sovereign state of Illinois their AI regulation? Should, I don't know, if Pete Buttigieg wins 2028 and AOC wins, does Texas? I can tell you, Texas don't want AOC telling us what to do in regards to AI here.
Certainly not.
In the great state of Texas. So I have been thinking a lot about this, and I think states have some rights in the operating system of America. And
in this one, I am
federal
a little
regulation.
I am and boy, far be it for me to say this too often, but I am a little bit partial to the sort of the David Sachs AI czar argument that is putting a huge onus burden on these companies. That if I'm Anthropic, if I'm Perplexity, even if I'm Google, and now it's like, oh, I've got 50 different states and they all might have different approaches. And it's what we're seeing right now with Australia and Great Britain and age verification. I don't know if you've been following this, but if you want to
explain it to the audience,
if you want to be on social media now in Australia and Britain, they have laws against minors under 16 being on social media. So if you want to be on YouTube or Twitter, or those kinds of services, Instagram, you've got to age verify and prove that you are over 16. And they're coming up with all kinds of, there's AI tools that'll look at your face and evaluate. There's all kinds of credit cards, whatever. But like YouTube's very upset about it because they're like, well, we're not even a social media site. We're on TVs. Like, you shouldn't have to prove that you're of age to watch YouTube. But, they're making them, as far as I know, that they're still making them do it. So that's an example of putting a huge onus on companies that want to operate in your country because now they have to figure out this age verification login problem.
But you also, if you went to a drugstore or a 7-Eleven, you can't buy nudie magazines as a minor or cigarettes, right? There's age verification for those things.
You got to show ID if you want smokes, yeah.
Yeah, and so if you were a parent, unlimited, unrestricted porn, Instagram, predators on these platforms. Like, I kind of understand I understand why these societies are deciding social media is not a net benefit for kids and kids should be required to log in. I actually am in favor of it. I think it should come from the industry, not from legislation. When your website or your app goes down, you don't want to hear a bunch of excuses and you don't want to waste your time. You just want the problem fixed fast. And that's where Sentry comes in. They're handling all the real-time error monitoring and tracing, so the moment something breaks, you know exactly what happened and why. They've also got Seer, S-E-E-R, an AI-powered debugging agent that can sniff out the root causes of your problems 94% of the time, and growing. And like all great startups, Sentry is constantly shipping new features, bells and whistles and updates. They just added AI agent monitoring to the platform. When your LLM agent starts hallucinating, Sentry traces the entire timeline to find out what went wrong and take the guesswork out of it. Plus, it's built into the same system that your team is already using and relying on. So try it out for yourself. Go to sentry.io/twist and actually start making sense of what your agents are doing. That's sentry.io/twist.